Deep in the woods, where the trees grow tall and the fog rolls in thick, there's an old secluded cabin. A young couple, looking for a quiet weekend getaway, decided to rent this cabin for a few days. It was a chance to escape the hustle and bustle of the city and reconnect with nature. But from the moment they arrived, something felt off. The air was heavy, the cabin creaked with every step, and there was a strange, lingering smell they couldn't identify. As night fell, the peaceful retreat they had hoped for quickly turned into a nightmare. Strange noises echoed through the cabin, footsteps on the porch, whispers carried by the wind. At first they brushed it off as their imaginations running wild, but when they woke in the middle of the night to find the front door wide open, fear set in. They searched every corner of the cabin, but found nothing and no one. The next day, the couple discovered an old, dusty journal hidden beneath the floorboards. The journal belonged to a previous occupant of the cabin, a man who had written about the horrors he faced while living there. He described hearing voices, seeing shadowy figures in the woods, and feeling a constant, malevolent presence. His final entry was a chilling warning. If you find this, leave now. The cabin is cursed, they won't let you go. Terrified, the couple packed their bags and fled the cabin that very night. To this day, the cabin remains abandoned, but those who dare to pass by still hear strange noises and see lights flickering inside. Whatever haunts that cabin is still there, waiting for its next visitors. Emily, a teenager with a love for antiques, was thrilled when her family moved into a new house. In her bedroom, she found an old mirror left behind by the previous owners. It was a large, ornate piece, with a heavy, detailed frame. But from the moment she laid eyes on it, she felt uneasy. At first, Emily dismissed the strange occurrences as tricks of the light, shadows moving in the mirror, flickers of something she couldn't quite make out. But as time went on, the shadows became clearer, taking on the shape of a figure standing behind her. Every time she turned around, the room was empty, but in the mirror, the figure remained, growing closer each night, no matter what she did. Covering the mirror, rearranging the room, the figure in the mirror seemed to inch closer, almost as if it was trying to reach out to her. Desperate for answers, Emily began researching the history of her new home. She soon discovered that the previous owner was a woman obsessed with the mirror, convinced it was a portal to another world. She would spend hours staring into it, claiming to see spirits on the other side. Then one day she simply vanished, leaving only the mirror behind. Determined to break free from the mirror's grip, Emily smashed it one night, hoping to end the nightmare. But as the glass shattered, she heard a blood-curdling scream, and the figure she had been seeing in the reflection emerged from the shards. Emily's family removed the mirror the next day, but the horror didn't end there. From that moment on, every time Emily looked into any mirror, she could see the figure lurking just behind her, waiting for the chance to step back into her world. Tom lived alone in a quiet suburban neighborhood where nothing ever seemed to happen. Every night before bed, he made sure to lock all the doors and windows, securing his home for a peaceful night's sleep. But one night, Tom was woken by a faint tapping sound coming from his window. At first, he thought it was just a tree branch, but as the tapping grew louder and more insistent, he decided to check it out. When he pulled back the curtain, his blood ran cold. Standing outside his window was a pale, thin man with hollow eyes staring directly at him. The man's expression was blank, but there was something deeply unsettling about his gaze. Tom stood frozen, unable to move as the man continued to tap on the glass. Then, as suddenly as he appeared, the man turned and walked away into the darkness. Shaken, Tom convinced himself it was just a prank, maybe a neighbor playing a trick. But the following night, the tapping returned. This time at a different window. The figure was back, closer and more menacing than before. Tom called the police, but by the time they arrived, the figure was gone, leaving no trace behind. The tapping stopped for a few days, and Tom began to believe that it was over. But one night he woke to the sound of his front door creaking open. Heart pounding, Tom reached for his phone, but before he could dial, he saw the figure standing in his hallway, staring at him with those hollow, empty eyes. The man spoke in a low, raspy voice. "Why won't you let me in?" Panicked, Tom locked himself in his room, but the figure continued to roam the house, tapping on the walls, whispering through the doors. As dawn approached, the noises stopped, and when Tom emerged, his house was empty once more. But every night since, the figure returns, waiting outside, tapping on the windows, asking the same haunting question. "Why won't you let me in?" These stories may seem too terrifying to be true, but they all come from real experiences, shared by real people. The next time you hear a strange noise in the night, or catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of your eye, remember, sometimes the scariest things are those we can't explain. If you enjoyed these stories, make sure to subscribe for more true horror tales. Sleep tight, and don't forget to check your windows.